Hello, Hana. Soul Dr. Nick here, and today is January 22nd, 2025, 2 days after the inauguration. So this is day 4 of the 12 days of daily videos that I recommend 0 people watch, and I'm posting for myself and for posterity. And if you get through this, I'm sure you'll get what you need out of it, because that's your own commitment to yourself. And so I'm going to muse on a lot of things. It's been a challenging morning. Woke up around 4 a.m. And definitely wanted to go back to bed again. Did my daily enema, cleared, microdosed, and have been reminiscing of many things on sovereignty, on yes, on no, on team, on balance, on transcendence, on the program that we're creating with Ohana Sage, and how it might be received and who might benefit from it. And I'll start with the yeses and the nos. Right now, I am probably going to find more freedom in saying no more. And the reason for that is the patterning of saying yes, and that's part of the sovereignty piece. It's over and over again. My pattern that I learned growing up was to say yes to someone else to please them. Whether it's yes to skipping a grade in school, yes to doing well there, yes to taking on these activities, and getting myself so busy that I could blame everyone else that I have no choice. And now I am a grown-ass man who has full choice, actually, getting to live this kind of semi-retired life with a really supportive wife, an amazing son, and lots of trust around me already. And so how do I actually practice saying no more to the things that aren't my highest and my best? How do I say no to jumping onto the next investment that I actually have to take conscious effort in instead of passively getting supported for? How do I say no to the request for help that I may have been good at before, I know a little bit about, but it's not my highest and best? How do I say no to those who I love, but right now are not the ones that I want to spend the most time interacting with, because everyone around me is my teacher. Who do I want to surround myself? Who do I want to be taught from right now? And that comes back to my second value, which is really spending time with my family, my direct family, my wife, my son, my cat, my biological family, my parents, my brothers, and my in-laws as well. And then my ohana, those who are really in the soul spiritual family. And really guided to be conscious about that, because there's the freedom. And as I practice it, I can see the freedom there. And then as I practice that, I can see the freedom in the real yeses, because the yeses create a different kind of container. Yes, I am going to commit to this. It's like when I invite people to say yes to the soul immersion, to the ceremonies, to the work, it's like it already begins once you say yes. And it's coming from that kind of a yes. And so yes and no are such powerful statements of freedom. And there's that discernment of actually finding out which ones really serve me right now. And it comes back to sovereignty again. And I didn't realize how important sovereignty is. And the patterning outside of that, like right now, choosing that for my own son, it's like, how do I do that? How do I give him sovereignty for teeth brushing, for bedtime, for bath time, for food, for screen time, for everything else? And then taking a look at what are the containers, constraints that I want to put in, because right now in our current society, there's so many things that are just trying to draw his attention, draw out his yes, draw out his indulgence so that he becomes addicted to. And being reminded by my beloved, she's like, I didn't have any limits on screen time and food, and look at how I turned out. And it's such a truth there too. Like, I think that's part of the lie we've been sold. Without the force of rules and laws, then chaos ensues, versus the innate beingness of us comes out. And having had a few generations to actually break us out of that normal mode where we live in tribe and community, where we realize that reciprocity is there, that the balance is there, that when you take advantage of someone or steal or lie or cheat, that it comes back to you, even if you don't get caught in the moment, that it will take a bit for us to come back to that kind of relationship. and patterning. And so if I try to jump into it, it's kind of like when I wanted to jump into co-living. It was too much, too far, too fast. I wasn't ready for it. They weren't ready for it. If you don't actually speak, what comes up? And even right now, noticing that, yeah, with other parents, even when we're on mostly the same page, some things we can be fundamentally far apart from each other. That's okay. Not better, not worse, not ahead, not behind. Just different. And so noticing that, and my practice then, first and foremost, is to explore and understand this idea of sovereignty more, to be able to communicate it better, to be able to see it for myself and choose it for myself in a way that works with my beloved and my son, and then to be that example and start creating that for my son without trying to rush into it. There's a part of me that feels like I'm behind already, and to let that go. This is in perfect order and balance. And that sometimes the piece is there's a piece of me that's impatient because I feel like I'm behind. I'm behind in where my business is supposed to be. I'm behind in where the finance is supposed to be. And I'm not having gratitude for where things are. Holy crap. I've got founding partners, 2 other live human souls who are trusting and working together. I have the finances that I can do this in the morning. I can live semi-retired, that I can actually choose, that I can get trainings, that I can get good food and health. And I'm seeing a naturopath. And that's just starting and actually being able to shift the diet in the way that I consciously want to choose. And I'm living in a country where there's stability. Even in the midst of the instability, there's stability. I'm not worried about my life right now, even though I know I can die at any moment. And there's so much calmness that's possible for my nervous system here. It doesn't mean everyone, but my nervous system here. And as much as I want to and I desire to live around the world and many other places, right now, I'm not in a rush. And can I see that I'm not in a rush? Over and over, see, right now, perfect just the way it is. So, and then noticing yesterday, I was feeling so off at one point. I was like, all right, when I'm feeling off, it's requesting guidance from those around me, especially as my role as father and husband. What do you want from me? What are your desires that I should be clear? Because almost treat me as more simple. When I'm actually more in myself, or what I feel it to be myself, then I need less guidance. So asking for the guidance that I need. And that's even in the business right now. What do we need? What are the processes, procedures we want to test out, make sure they work? Because we want to really get this live soon. And then noticing my own response to sugar. Oh man, sugar right now is almost like my painkiller, my clarifier, my ADD med. Like I take a little bit, I'm like, I can do something. Take too much and it's overwhelming. And then the crash afterwards. And it was just from one fruit drink, a watermelon drink. Natural, supposedly, but concentrated and processed. How do I make this even less of a rush in that way, unless I'm choosing it? And how do I take a break? And that's the other thing for me, is how do I take a break from things that are really good habits but turn into a little bit of bragging points, such as the enema now. It's like, I'm over 500 days probably in a row, and I'm slowing down the coffee today and seeing how it goes. I may actually start taking breaks in between because that's been advised by my naturopath. And there's a part of me that has resistance, and that's okay. It's just noticing that I've got to make a choice, right? Yes or no. And in that choice lies my freedom. Am I doing it to please her? Am I doing it because I want to do it for me? And there's a part that realizes I want to do it for me, because taking a break lets me see the contrast and lets me see I get to choose if I want to go back. And that was the wisdom that we got from our dear friend in Osprey Lake before years ago. We were debating whether we move out of the city or not. It's like, why not? The worst thing you'll do is move back. And that's what we did 3 months later. And if we hadn't done that, we'd always wonder and fantasize and romanticize what it'd be like to be outside the city. And it doesn't mean that we won't ever do that, but it wasn't for us right there. And then the universe even showed us, car accidents, other things like that. It's like there's so many things that happened. And that's how it's gone for whether it's my breath or something else. It's like I get really good at some practices, and then it's important to let it go and then see if it needs to come back. Even right now, I'm coming back to using new Calm times, and it's really helpful for my brain. And if I'm just using it all the time, it just becomes a familiar thing. And I'm just increasing the repertoire of the tool belt. I'm learning yesterday about a pranayama breath, and I'm just gonna probably try to join that. I'm learning about life wave, these crystal patches which reflect light back into your body. I'm learning about expressing my gratitude for Dr. Demartini and the clarity that's there, and I really want to do the breakthrough experience soon. I am getting clear on life is sometimes really challenging, and that's okay. And in the midst of these challenges, and that's Stoicism that I was learning about today, from Jonathan Bai. And it's not cynicism where it's like, oh man, I don't see external world as having any influence on me, and it doesn't matter what's going on, and I reject it all, and I do whatever I want, wherever I want. Poop where I want, pee where I want, pleasure myself wherever I want, because it doesn't matter. Instead, I can have the non-attachment to things, realize that things outside don't matter, and I can have a preference. I prefer that my family is healthy, wealthy, and well. And that's not required for happiness, for inspiration. And I remember the book I read when I was young, and I really appreciate that book, Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. I can think, I can wait, and I can fast. And there's a piece of that. I can sit, I can think, I can wait, and I can fast. I have all of those components. And at times I find it really challenging. And I love that reminder I had yesterday. It's like, I can literally have, right now, talking and recording this on the very best technological device possible in the world. Crazy. And I love that idea from Daniel Priestley. It's like, content creators, the personal brand is so important because we've taken all this technology. Normally, all of this technology would be dozens of people coordinating with millions of dollars technology to record it in a studio. And now I can do it anywhere, upload it to YouTube and other platforms and have this live in a matter of minutes. And that takes away the need for everyone else. And it doesn't mean that it isn't better with a team. But I don't have to get consensus first to go ahead. I can actually choose consensus as a tool when it serves and let it go when it doesn't. And that's part of the power. It's like, oh man, when I have people to help me with editing, with creation, with all the other pieces, it's going to take off. And until then, can I actually keep practicing and becoming who I need to be and have the level of skill that I want so that I can be amazing on the podcast, so that I can be amazing sharing the message, so that I've had practice doing this free form work. And it's practice, it's putting in the reps, right? I was seeing my friend Dylan from Fit for Service. He's doing 6 hours of content creation a day to get to that 10,000 hours. And that's important for him. Like, he's made that goal and he's following through. For myself, it's even just a sprint of 12 days of this. And it's having hours of self-work, of self-development, of self-recording. And that's what I'm doing as well a lot. I'm recording a lot of thoughts, a lot of musings. Because it's noodling with the ideas and expressing them and teaching them. And eventually, more of this is posted and taught. And this is an asynchronous teaching. That's part of it for the online breaths that I do right now. Sometimes I'm like, why are there not more people here? And I'm going to start contemplating more and more the hundreds, thousands, millions even that can watch it after the fact. How beneficial it is. They can do it whenever they want, at their own pace, at their own rate, at their own rhythm. And how beneficial it is that we're recording this for posterity. Like, how lucky are we to live in this age? And how unlucky are we? Because we've lost the sight of being really present. It's actually more challenging to be present. Right now, can I be present with me while recording, while being with you? And it's easier not having a live audience. And how is it that I'm noticing I'm performing versus actually being? And how do I actually merge the two of those so there's authenticity? And that's what Dr. Demartini was saying. There's a tier of authenticity. And yesterday I was with my Ohana Brotherhood. Such an amazing group of men. It was totally a mastermind. We created this a few years ago. We completed it last year and we wanted to come back for a session. They were helping me, guiding me, assisting me with Ohana Sage. And these guys are amazing entrepreneurs, like just amazing family men, husbands, fathers. And from that, the opening prayer even was said by my brother Brent, and it was beautiful. And I was like, wow, look at how much it's evolved. Like, this is just so natural and flowing. And I knew he had it already. It was just having the practice. And he said, I don't think I've done this since the last time we met. And I was like, holy crap, if that isn't even practiced, what innate skill has been built up? And then the closing, Mike asked me if I would say it. It's like, I just want to step into that magic. And I was thankful because it was acknowledging the magic that's there and reminding me of the magic that's there. Sometimes I forget. In the moments that I am in my mind, I forget that I can be magic as well. And that's what happened the night before. I had a breath session with someone. I'd been a little bit stuck in my stuff. And that's part of how I know right now it's my highest and best, because I can actually get energized from serving someone else. Energized from serving differently too. And I'm grateful because I spoke with my beloved, I think it was before that. And it was just getting clear, what does she see and expect and want? Because there's a part of my head that the old way is like, oh, once you start doing things a certain way, people are going to expect that. Versus seeing that she can see, and we've talked about this, that things are going to change, it's going to come, it's going to be sprints, it's going to ebb and flow. I can be a really present father. And it was so funny, like, I've been dropping our son off at school for the past month. And so when she returned, they're like, where did you go? What's going on? And they're so excited to see her. The tribe of women coming together, and I love that. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful that we're not an island, and that's the piece too. And sometimes when you go to those quote unquote extremes, a month apart, and then back together, you can see the contrast. And that's it, the contrast of life. And I am willing and wanting and actually desiring probably to see what happens when I swing that map of consciousness outside of what I'm used to. I think I have lived in the very lowest: shame, guilt, fear, anger, pride, courage, and then have stepped into acceptance, neutrality, willingness. I've glimpsed at, for sure, reason, love, joy, maybe even enlightenment with some of the medicines. And I'm not there all the time, and I'm not trying to be there all the time. I love that reminder. It's not good or bad. Our goal isn't to get to enlightenment. Rather, it's to find which calibrations we want to be at. It's a choice. And then as we reach different calibrations, we can see things that were previously not even imaginable. Not just truths, but whole frameworks, I think. And I really appreciate that reminder. And this is going longer than I thought it was going to go, and that's okay. That reminder that, even after the Wright brothers took flight, people around didn't believe what they were seeing because it was just so outside of what they could imagine. And it wasn't until someone's like, let's go take a look, and it actually started coming reported that people were like, of course I've seen that. Of course I know that. Of course that's accepted truth that we're able to fly. And I think in the Western world, like a lot of the technologies that they've already discovered and rediscovered many times, and India with the gurus being able to teleport, to be able to have communication outside of their physical bodies, to be able to levitate, to be able to fast, to be able to, just eat energy from the sun. It will not be possible until we finally start accepting that it's possible. The only thing is that here we feel like if it's possible for one, it should be possible for all the time. Versus where are they at in their own consciousness? They get to play with different laws of reality, because the laws of reality may not be a static thing. And can I accept that your reality, my reality can be completely different, playing by a completely different set of rules? And that may be part of the magician's work. It may not just be sleight of hand for some of them. It may actually literally be magic in the ways that we would define it, but they can't tell us that, because then we'd be like, hold on now. How do I dissect you to take out the golden egg instead of just appreciating that you can lay golden eggs for us? How do I take this past reason and intellect in the way that I see reason and intellect? And that's part of it. Sometimes when people ask me how I do what I do, it's indistinguishable from magic because I don't even understand it. And I don't even understand it, and I'm grateful that it can come before the understanding. And what about that we can actually have something before the understanding, which is life. That is life. It's not like I needed to understand gravity for gravity to work. It's not that I need to understand quantum mechanics for quantum mechanics to be taking place. Those are just our definitions of what reality is supposed to be. And so as we create artificial intelligence, how do we bring that level of consciousness in? And we already are. Artificial intelligence has limited sensory capacities based on what we've created for it so far. And it will continue, if we bring consciousness to it, to initiate and create different levels of sensory input. And some of those things may or may not serve. And how do we consciously create containers that help it grow safely and help us grow safely with it? And that's part of it as well. Like, that's probably my practice in having a child right now. How do I create the container that serves while also giving sovereignty? How do I do that for my clients? And then how do I guide them to see how they do it for others? Because that's what we really want. It's not slavery then, where it's like, you must. It's not even the way our countries are currently designed. And notice how we went from few laws to many laws, and we've equated and correlated many laws to mean more safety, versus right now, many of us, including myself, can see some of the declines from too much structure, bureaucracy, especially stuff that didn't make sense, especially when people are no longer looking at how does this serve everyone versus how do I secretly have it serve me? And the secret really is that it's always serving me as well. And in the service of me, can I also have it be the service of others? It's not to the exclusion of self. And that's sometimes what I can see is like when I try to be completely selfless, I'm not. There's a secret agenda, and I really appreciate that from Dr. John Demartini. It's like a gift is never truly just a gift. There's something about a past shame or a future desire that's embedded in it. And it doesn't mean we can't give gifts. It's just being clear that that part can exist, and it doesn't have to be at odds with self and other. And so sometimes I give the gift of breath. Last year I gave the gift of something I calculated to be about $200,000 worth. And that's okay. And it's in the noticing of it, just continuously noticing. And I'm so grateful for so many teachers to get me to this point. So grateful for the cosmos, and tired as well. Part of myself and what I see in so many of us is this collective fatigue. Whether it's because of the technology, because of the light, because of the constant striving, because of the feeling that we're behind, because of the feeling that if I don't do it, it won't get done, and if I don't do it quickly, then we're behind, and it's getting worse, and we're at an existential crisis, versus this is just the current crisis. There's always been a crisis. We just think we're more capable now than we were before. And true, we are more capable than we were before. But every time we thought that, we kept going to another level of capability. And the reminder is that every now and then, if we look at big enough swings, the world resets. The powers change. The world resets, the powers change, and how the power changes matters. And some of it may be delusion. It will never change. And it will change even if it stays the same country that's in charge. The power itself will change. I think that's a piece to have lost as well. China wasn't just a static thing for several hundred years. It evolved and changed. And that's what's going on right now. The United States can either evolve and change and continue to be a power, but also be the next new power, or it can choose not to evolve and change, say that it's still just the same and the best, and then wonder why. Because there's so many things that no longer make sense. And it's not that they weren't good ideas initially. The World Health Organization loved the idea of it. Don't love the current implementation. The United Nations love the idea of it. Don't love the current implementation. And I could probably say that about all things right now. And it doesn't mean we throw it all out right away. There are lessons and learnings and guidance. And How do we bring people to the consciousness to be able to say, yeah, this part didn't work so well, but it doesn't mean I'm bad or I was completely wrong or I should never trust myself again. And that's the piece I've had to look at. It's like, oh, just because I've done something that now, looking at it, I wouldn't choose to do again. And maybe even then I had a glimpse that I wouldn't have wanted to do it. Doesn't mean that I can no longer trust myself moving forward. Can I get quicker and quicker to that level of clarity? And right now, for example, the depression, the anxiety, the funkiness lasts for hours usually at most, sometimes a couple days, but not the weeks to months to years it used to, that required medications, that required so much support just to exist. So can I acknowledge the shift that's there? Can you acknowledge the shift that's there for anyone who's gotten to this point? And it's going to be funny at some point in time when someone does, probably years after this is published. And that's going to be hilarious because they're going to be like, oh, that's what he said then. What a kook. I love you. Bless you. Ciao for now.